Have some additional video, another interview with a young man named Jim Kirby, who's actually a student at Jackie's College. And this might be a great time to show that piece because we've got some interviews with some people who took care of those very issues with Jim. So let's hear what Jim Kirby has to say about that.
Jim Kirby considers himself very well educated about HIV/AIDS. He found out he had the virus nearly 2 years ago.
It was a bit tragic at the time. I was going to settle in with a partner, and he tested negative and I tested positive. Death sentence was the first thing that occurred. Oh my God, I'll be dead within a couple of years. That was one thing I had to get over with. It took me about 3 months to realize that, hey, I'm not dying with AIDS, I'm just living with a thing called HIV.
Like many others with HIV, Jim wanted his life to go forward and to be as fulfilling and productive as possible.
My typical day starts off of usually getting up pretty early, going to work, doing what's called a split shift at the phone company, US West. And after my first portion of the split shift, I end up going to class. After class, I usually go grab something to eat, most of the time the Aliveness Project. If not, then I come home and cook. I'd love to cook still. Then I go back to work, another 3 or 4 hours, then I come home, and the day's over with. It's a very long day, but it's rewarding to me because it gives me a purpose to continue.
Now, for an example, what do you think?
Although many people have had the opportunity to be educated about HIV/AIDS, people with the disease still face real fears of discrimination and rejection.
It's a bit difficult at times to open up about HIV because I'm afraid of the rejection that it might involve. It's a scary situation. I mean, no one wants to be pushed away because of something someone can't see, feel, or even experience.
I would think that students or anyone could show compassion for someone who has AIDS or is HIV positive by just accepting them like they would accept anyone else. The unconditional acceptance that they have a right to have that illness just as if they had cancer or any other disabling illness.
I found when I opened up about the HIV, the majority of people are quite accepting. They still accept me as I am.
Oh, well, I'll be around for the next 2 years too, so I'm around all the time, especially now.
But surviving with HIV requires more than just acceptance. It requires good friends and strong support.
It is very important to have a support group around, especially for an individual that is HIV positive and is alone. If they do not have a partner to assist them to go through this, they need a very strong support system of friends that will act as their partner.
Jim gets much of his support through the Aliveness Project, which was created especially to assist people affected by HIV/AIDS.
I can go to the Aliveness to cuss, scream, holler, have a bad day, get some support, cry on a shoulder, and even get it back in return to feel like I'm needed. Someone can cry on my shoulder, someone can scream at me. The Aliveness is basically my major support.
The support of his friends is a great comfort to Jim, but good friends usually can't pay the rent or put food on the table. For that, Jim needs his work.
Thank you. I feel quite comfortable about my HIV status at US West. I've had no problem with anyone rejecting me, changing their attitude towards me regarding it.
One of the first people Jim opened up to about his HIV status was his supervisor, Betty Foster Crow.
This was the first time that someone had ever came to me and said this, so I wanted to make sure I didn't say the wrong things. So what I did first was just listen. Let him talk first. After he completed it, I asked him questions like, what would you like me to do? How can I support you? And what are you looking for in me to, help you get through this?
Hi, Betty.
Hi, Jim. How you doing?
I'm fine. Yourself?
Good. What we're going to do is talk a little bit about your performance. For me, it's very important to have the policies that US West has established because because of my principles and my morals, I could not work for a company that didn't have a disability policy.
I think the key to a good environment is the management behind the workforce. If the management is well educated, then again, the workplace is going to be a lot more tolerable for all people. I don't want special treatment. I just want to be treated as another worker, someone to be friendly with, someone to treat me like a human being.
Jim feels he is fortunate to work for a company like U.S. West. His employment is his only defense against mounting medical bills.
The medical situation in my life is a bit scary. Every time I go, it's going to cost about $500. I'm currently just on vitamins, no medicines, but then every time I have a cold, it's going to cost me a fortune to see a doctor because they're going to check more than just the regular routine, because I'm going to end up with no immune system, which is going to make a cold a lot more lethal to me.
Jim also faces a time when his illness will prevent him from working as he now does.
And when I need help in case of absenteeism, in case of immediate illnesses, I mean, things can happen to me in the future that I'm not going to be prepared for. My tardinesses will probably happen because, hey, my body goes numb on occasion, and it's like, well, I can't even move sometimes.
Once Jim becomes symptomatic, we work with our health services department, and they will work with his doctors, and they will determine how many days or how many hours he can work per day. Once that's decided, then we just work with him that way. And then it would be up to Jim if he feels that he can work, you know, without any problem.
The need to accommodate people with HIV disease is an important consideration, both in the workplace and on the college campus.
It's really interesting when you try to distinguish someone that's HIV from any other major need that a student might have, at least in a community college setting, as far as what would be the role of the faculty or the administration to that student. To the student that's HIV infected, or to the single parent student whose children are sick, you have to have some sense, I suspect, of we do have certain minimum things we have to accomplish. We have to have a certain amount of class attendance, 80, 90%, whatever you choose to do. Doesn't mean you can't have a great deal of compassion for the students who can't complete a course on time. You can give an incomplete. There are many options you have available to you, but I wouldn't single out HIV students any more than I would single out any other populations that have needs. I think you try to respond, at least in the urban community college, to the types of students that you're going to have who may not always be able to be there.
Great. Thank you.
Acceptance, support, accommodation. These behaviors are linked to the success and well-being of people living with disabilities like HIV and AIDS. With HIV affecting us all, it's vital to educate ourselves and others and fight discrimination with fact and compassion.
And I see the direction, at least on our campus, and I hope it would happen on other campuses, as one where we are trying to be open to students with diverse situations. And once you become open to one area, hopefully you'll become open to another area. It's going to take a while for people to completely, especially I think people who have not even thought about AIDS, to get rid of some of their fears. But certainly where we're at today compared to 2 or 3 years ago is light years in difference.
My advice that I would give to any supervisor or manager that has people reporting to them is to get educated, find out as much as possible how to approach a person with the HIV, how to respond to that person so that they feel comfortable talking with you, be supportive, and ask questions, listen to the person, and be there for them when they need you.
People are going to have to start opening up their eyes and breaking some of these learned behaviors and accepting people as people, whether it be HIV, AIDS, homosexual, heterosexual, whites with blacks, etc., etc. The world's going to have to start making it a more comfortable place for all.
Some really incredible information in that piece, and I think some very practical